Anthony, first of all, good to see you.
Good to see
appreciate
you
coming on, man.
It's less cold here than
less
it was
cold
in
than
Davos.
World Economic Forum, yes. You had to have seen the exchange in the Oval Office between Zelensky, President Trump, and J.D. Vance. Your thought on that?
Well, listen, I see it very differently than Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. The Russians were the aggressors. The Ukrainians had a democratically elected leader that repelled them and did the bidding of Western Europe and the free world by repelling a dictator from invading a sovereign nation. And so it felt like a setup to me. It felt like they brought him in to rough him up like that, I guess to humiliate him and get him to resign because he's a very strong leader. The expectation was 3 years ago that he was going to leave. Putin was going to take Kiev in weeks, and they've been fighting it out for 3 years. And so, I applaud Zelensky, President Zelensky, and I just think it's a shame that the United States is going in this direction. So I'm not a fan of what happened, but I understand what they did to him. It was a propaganda setup, frankly.
You've worked with this president. You've been this close to him. What is he thinking in terms of why is he warming up to Putin?
None of us could figure that out. Whether it was me, McMaster, John Kelly, none of us can figure it out. And I'm not saying that President Trump is an agent of Vladimir Putin. None of us say that. But if he was, you would go down the list of what he is doing and you would do those things. You would go after the Canadians, our longstanding allies. You would attack the Mexicans. You would say that Panama needs to get back the canal. You're going to take Greenland. What he's doing is he's trying to set this up so that there's a multipolar world. Maybe there's an American pole to the world and a Russian pole to the world and perhaps a Chinese pole to the world. And that's sort of a change in direction from the free world protecting itself and drawing multilateral alliances and trade agreements among themselves to make themselves safe. And what I would say is that there are 5.7 billion people on the planet that are living under some form of autocracy right now. And what they got from the United States was a country that believed in freedom and was trying to push freedom. And just compare this to Ronald Reagan as an example. He's meeting Gorbachev in Moscow. The State Department says don't stop to meet the Jewish dissidents, but he stops to meet the Jewish dissidents to send this message. And so the message that's going on today, I think, is antithetical to what America has represented. Now, if you're telling me this is the direction that America wants to go in, and we're a democratic country, if that's the message, we want to go in that direction, that's fine. But I would represent the dissent of that. I would say that that's a bad direction for America. It's going to be bad karmically, it's going to be bad for our alliances, it's going to be bad economically.
And is it bad for investors? And I bring that up because we saw markets trade higher into this president's re-election. We have tariffs now. Anthony, I was on I did an interview with HP CEO Enrique Lores yesterday. He might have to raise prices because of tariffs on his computers. We have tariffs, we have the spectacle in the Oval Office. How could investors not fear this president?
Look, it's very bad. But look, the market's telling you that, Steve Cohen, a good friend of mine, I'm an investor of his, he said it last week. Remember, tariffs are a tax, and they're primarily a consumer tax. It's a consumption tax. It's sort of like a VAT, and that's a regressive tax. And so what ends up happening is the poor people, it eats up more of their disposable income than any other income group, and it's very harmful. It creates a negative flywheel, a vicious circle in the economy. So again, I understand that we need to manicure and surgically go through our trade agreements and reset some of them to protect American workers, and I'm all for that. But I don't think this sort of blanket approach is the right way to do it, and I think he's going to put us into a recession, frankly.
We've seen recession probabilities pick up. Our shows have been talking about it all day long. Are they right? Are economists right to worry that this president puts us into a mild recession?
Look, I mean, you got some room. The Fed could cut rates and create more liquidity in the market if we're really going to go into a recession. But it feels like that. He didn't need to do any of this. The economy was doing quite well. He could have surgically applied some tariffs. He could have, if he didn't like certain things, remember, he himself did the trade deal, redid the trade deal with China, redid the trade deal with Canada and Mexico. If he didn't like elements of it, he could have gone back to them and tried to tweak it. But going about it the way he's going about it, he's got the Canadians talking to the Chinese now about selling their energy. I don't know. I don't think that's in the best interest of the United States.
Lastly, of course, we're at the Bitcoin Investor Week conference. I've talked to folks in this room. People are optimistic about a Bitcoin reserve, stablecoin regulation. They think the administration is going to be friendly to crypto. But given everything else we're seeing, Anthony, does the crypto community, are they going to get a wake-up call that maybe the year goes by and none of these things happen?
Well, there's a chance of that, but I think even if the worst case happens, the one that you just described, the fact that there isn't a jihad against the crypto community, I think is very good long-term for crypto. This macro stuff, though, is not great for crypto. Just remember this with Donald Trump. You get the whole buffet table. You get the meme coin grift, you get the 51st state for Canada, the acquisition of Greenland, Zelensky's a dictator, and oh, by the way, while you're at the table with your tray, you can pick up a little bit of pro-crypto regulation. But he's going to force feed you everything on the Trump buffet table.
We're going to leave it there. SkyBridge founder Anthony Scaramucci, always good to see you. Appreciate it.
Great to be here, man.
Thank you.